John Harris, Home Guard. Did you have a clearly defined area that was your patch to look after? Yes, my patch was the village, the whole village area, And then the next one was Watford or Yelvertoft or something like that. And that was your particular patch. There wasn't much liaison between patches unless you were in the same company. At West Haddon, the company which we were in comprised basically Long Buckby and East Haddon. Oh, I don't think East Haddon was in it. They were 12th, I think. But the organisation I wasn't worried about in those days. I could go into work and be the young lad, like in your teens.
John Harris. So, talking about the time of Dunkirk, Sunday morning there'd be Home Guard with no uniforms and no so-called real equipment, but every man with a rifle, marching down the street, meet the regular army from West Haddon Hall, all coming up, all done up in their Sunday best uniform, but every man with a broomstick. It was rather funny at the time, still is. There was a party for the whole of West Haddon village, centred round the village institute hall and the school. Lunch was given to senior citizens of the village, followed by tea for the children. They ate at tables set out in the playground. In the evening, there was a party on the green. Cecil Ainge put up the fairy lights and organised the music. I don't remember how late it went on. It must have been some party, as everyone was complaining they had worn their shoes out.
There were street parties in West Haddon village. Of course, my husband wasn't home yet, so I wasn't going. But he wrote to say I should, and we had a huge party down on the green.
We spent all days celebrating in West Haddon. The 8 families all put in from their rations, so there was a good spread. We had the piano up on Mr. Atterbury's cart, and there was dancing and singing. Oh, we had a lovely time.
Giving it a big thrash on West Haddon Green. There was a great gathering there. We didn't get home till gone 2 o'clock in the morning.
They were bringing free drink along from the sheaf in West Haddon. There were lots of people not quite sober that day.
What do I remember about VE Day? Getting blotto.
It was hallelujah that night on the West Haddon village green, but it was work again the next day.
And a memory of the West Haddon Home Guard. We started off with pitchforks, then we had shotguns, and then we got rifles.
VE Day? We went hallelujah down the street in West Haddon.
I was in West Haddon on VE Day. There was quite a do down on the village green and the institute and all the pubs, and I think there was hallelujah that night up and down the village street. Surprising where all the stuff came from, actually.
I was with my parents staying at my aunt and uncle's in Colne in Lancashire. They moved to Colne from Leamington with his work from the VTH, which is the British Thompson Houston. When that was declared that VE Day, my cousin, who was about 3 years older than me, on that day he said, "Dennis," he said, "we'll have to get a bonfire made," he said. So he had some more friends, and we were dragging wood up to this spare piece of ground at the bottom of the street where they lived. We had a massive bonfire, and opposite that was a bread shop. And the bread man at the bread shop, he said, "I'll get some cobs for you," he said. And someone brought some sausages, cobs, and we had potatoes roast on the fire as well. And that evening we had a massive get together with all the friends in the local area, and we had the sausage in the bun sort of thing, and roast potatoes, whatever you wanted sort of thing. But there was a memory, and everyone enjoyed it. I'm just trying to think, but I don't think we had any fireworks. I can't remember just now, but I wouldn't have thought we had any, because they weren't about at that particular time sort of thing. But that's basically my little story about that.
From a memorial in Dale Abbey. Proudly you gathered, rank on rank, to war, as who had heard God's message from afar. All you had hoped for, all you had, you gave. To save mankind, yourself you scorned to save.
The darkest hour is just before the dawn.
Love is the only gold.
Back by Wilfred Gibson. They ask me where I've been, what I've done and seen, but what can I reply? Who knows? It wasn't I, but someone just like me who went across the sea and with my head and hands killed men in foreign lands. Though I must bear the blame because he bore my name.
I thank my God for ever remembrance of you.
When they were told us that we would have this VE Day celebration, we were a bit doubtful about it because we were still having the V2s coming over, because the Germans had a launch pad on the edge of the sea in France. Okay, anyway, we then had an air raid warning. And a rocket came at the same time, which used to very often happen. But anyway, that was okay. And then we decided to celebrate VE Day because we couldn't believe it had arrived. Because, as I say, with the greatest respect, I mean, when the government said Britain can take it, morale was getting pretty low. Anyway, in the evening, we went up to London, to Pall Mall, and to the Mall, with thousands and thousands of other people. The atmosphere was fantastic. Everybody was hugging everybody else, and everybody was singing, and the little group round where we were said, "We must remember we've still got prisoners in Japanese hands." And so somebody said a little prayer for them, which was rather nice amongst all the excitement. It started to drizzle with rain, just a little bit, not too much. We didn't stop everybody singing, and it was a wonderful, wonderful atmosphere. You felt that you could release everything, you know, and then went home and left loads of other people just all celebrating.
VE Day will bring personal disappointment for 84 years old George Sabin of Mill Hill, Long Buckby. He rang the church bells for the relief of Ladysmith. He rang for the coronation of Edward VII and George V and for the Silver Jubilee. He was one of the solemn men who tolled the bells to tell the district that Queen Victoria had died. Bell ringing is in his blood, for his grandfather was a ringer 125 years ago. On VE Day he will take a walk, trying to forget the bells, for he is 84 and is said to be too old to ring the bells he loves. When the ban on bells was lifted 6 months ago, he was denied the opportunity of taking a bell rope at Long Buckby.
Long Buckby Village has never produced so many decorations, bunting strung across the streets and the Union Jack floodlit.
Today is VE Day at Long Buckby, and the 2,400 inhabitants of this one street village are holding celebrations that the rest of Britain have almost forgotten. When the rest of Britain celebrated VE Day and the day following, over 3 weeks ago, the failure of Long Buckby to mark the historic occasion rankled in the mind of Mr. Jack Cooper, the billeting officer. Mr. Frank Biddle, the village greengrocer, said, "Mr. Churchill should have given us more notice. When Long Buckby does things, it likes to do them well and take time to think."
The town crier, Bill Coleman, village chimney sweep, swept through Long Buckby, ringing his bell and calling the good folk to rally to the cause. Long Buckby responded nobly. A celebration fund of £89, 11 shillings and 1p was collected.
The high spot of the celebrations took the form of sports and a special tea for the 310 children of Long Buckby village.
Mr. George West of the Horseshoes Inn went to Coventry, 20 miles away, where he knew of some bunting and other decorations that today make the Long Buckby village square a brave sight. The village's two bands, the Long Buckby Town Band and the Long Buckby Temperance Band, forgot their rivalry and amalgamated for the celebrations.
I patted a little girl's large frilly bonnet and asked her how she was enjoying herself. There came from beneath the bonnet a rich and fruity male voice saying, "Fine, but how I could do with a pint." The little girl was 50-year-old, 4'6" Billy York, who enjoys local fame as a retired jockey. After that, nothing surprised me, not even the village fishmonger disguised as a witch. Long Buckby may be slow in starting, but it finishes in front.
I was brought up in Yorkshire, and on VE Day I was staying with my mother and sister at my great aunt's in Kingsthorpe in Northampton. My father was very busy doing essential work in London. VE Day was declared and we were due to go back to Yorkshire. Of course, there were no telephones then. And my mum said, "I think we'll stay. We won't go back. I'm sure Father will come to Auntie's." Soon after that, we got a telegram saying that he was on his way, and he came to see us at Auntie's late in about tea time, I should think, when he arrived. And later on, that's after tea, Mum and he went down to the market square in Northampton to join in the celebrations and the dancing, and they left me and my sister with my auntie. I was 11, my sister was 5, and then Dad stayed overnight, I think, and went back to London the next day.
Long Buckby VE Night was celebrated by a packed dance at Long Buckby Cooperative Hall. The dance was billed 8 p.m. until you are browned off, and it was not until 4 a.m. that the band were able to pack away its instruments.
But the days after VE Day were quite exciting. Everybody was very thrilled that the war was over. I remember my parents being so thankful that my brother would be coming home. He was in the army and in, I think he was in Holland by then. He'd gone right across from the second day or third day after the D-Day landing, and he was a telephone engineer and had to set up all the communications. So they were very thankful that he was coming home, and that was our main celebration. But we did have a street party. We had quite a big street party in the road that I lived in, which was called, and still is, Atbara Road. And it was very near to the river at Teddington and also the Warner Brothers television studios, which unfortunately had been hit by a doodlebug, as we called them, and people had been killed there. So there was quite sadness. But we had a good celebration in the party in the road. In that road, I can't really remember what we had to eat. I think everybody supplied something, but I don't think the food was that important. I think we were just also excited and pleased and happy.
There were few vacant seats at Long Buckby Parish Church on Wednesday for the United Thanksgiving service. The service was conducted by the vicar, the Reverend A. Turner. The Reverend J. S. Swain, Baptist minister, gave the address. Mr. F. T. Bandy was at the organ.